Don't audit 17, my supervisor said on my first night. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. I asked the same question you're about to ask, he said. My advice, don't. I manage the overnight shift at Lakeview Self Storage. 62 units behind a keypad gate, 8 cameras, and one rule that matters: I never open a tenant's unit myself. I watch the monitors, log gate codes, and walk the rows every 2 hours. Unit 17 had no gate code on file. No access log. No tenant visit in 21 years. But the account was paid. Every month. On time. Wire transfer, no sender name, no return address, no contact number. Prepaid through June 2041. I pulled the original rental agreement on a slow Thursday. The tenant's name was Gerald Maddox. Gerald Maddox died on September 27, 2003. The first payment arrived 4 days later. If stories like this satisfying itch you didn't know you had, subscribe. And let's get back to Unit 17. My supervisor's name is Rowan. He's worked at Lakeview for 9 years, day shift mostly, but he trained me on overnights during my first week. Rowan is the kind of manager who tells you where the fuse box is and which vending machine eats quarters and then leaves you alone. He doesn't hover. He doesn't micromanage. But when I asked about Unit 17, he put his coffee down very slowly, the way people do when they want their hands to be doing something so their face doesn't have to. The account is current, he said. That's all we need to know. I told him I'd looked up the tenant. He already knew what I was going to say. Maddox, he said. Yeah. I know. Rowan told me he'd gone through the same thing in his 3rd year. The wire transfers bothered him the same way they bothered me, not because they were suspicious, but because they were perfect. No late payments. No partial amounts. No adjustments for the rate increases the facility applied in 2011, 2016, and 2022. The transfers matched the exact current rate every time, as though whoever was sending them had access to our billing system. He traced the routing number on the wire transfer. It belonged to a branch of Pacific Western Savings in Colton, California. He drove out there on a day off. The branch had closed in 2007. The building was demolished in 2011. The lot is a cell phone store now. The payments from that routing number arrived the month after he visited. And the month after that. They have not stopped. I want to be clear about something. I am not a curious person by nature. I don't read mystery novels. I don't watch true crime. I took this job because it was overnight, it was quiet, and it paid $11 more per hour than the Amazon warehouse I'd been working at. I didn't come here looking for something to investigate. But there's a difference between curiosity and a system that doesn't balance. I spent 4 years doing inventory at the warehouse. When a count is off, you find the discrepancy. That's not curiosity, it's procedure. And Unit 17 was a discrepancy in every system I had access to. I started with county records. Gerald Maddox. Born 1951. Died September 27, 2003, at the age of 52. Cause of death listed as cardiac arrest. No spouse. No children. No will on file. No probate case. No attorney of record. No one arranged this account through any legal process I could find. The rental agreement was signed on October 1, 2003, 4 days after his death. The signature on the form was Gerald Maddox's name. I compared it to his driver's license signature in the county database. It matched. A dead man signed a rental agreement 4 days after he died, and no one at Lakeview in 2003 flagged it, questioned it, or noted it in any file. I asked Rowan if anyone from that era was still with the company. He said the overnight manager who would have processed the agreement was a man named Voss. Curtis Voss. He'd worked overnights for 6 years. What happened to him? I asked. Rowan took a moment. He left. Left how? He stopped showing up. Mid-shift one night. The morning crew found his car in the lot, the office unlocked, the monitors still on. He'd logged his 10 o'clock round but not his midnight. His personal things were still in the desk drawer. He never came back for them. Did anyone file a report? The company did. The police checked the cameras. The footage from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. that night was blank. Not corrupted, blank. As if the system had recorded 8 hours of nothing. I'm going to tell you what happened 11 weeks into my shift, and I need you to understand that I checked the equipment afterward and there was nothing mechanically wrong with it. It was a Tuesday, 2:19 a.m. The corridor motion sensor on row C, that's units 14 through 19, tripped. I heard the alert from the office. A single chime, the kind you stop noticing after the first week because raccoons and stray cats set them off constantly. But when I pulled up camera 6, the one covering row C, the feed was black. Not static. Not frozen. Black. The timestamp was running in the corner, which meant the camera was powered and recording. It was recording darkness. I checked the camera log. Camera 6 had been offline, intermittently, not continuously, for 11 years. The maintenance log showed 14 repair tickets. Every one had been closed with the note, "Camera functional upon inspection." It worked when someone looked at it. It stopped working when they left. I walked row C with a flashlight. The corridor was empty. Every unit locked. No animal, no person, no obvious sensor trigger. I stopped at Unit 17. The padlock was a Master 930, brass body, shackles so corroded into the hasp that you couldn't turn a key in it anymore. That lock had not been opened with a key in years. Maybe a decade. Maybe longer. I touched it. It was warm. Not hot. Not freshly handled. But warmer than the metal around it, warmer than the hasp, warmer than the door, warmer than the night air. As if something on the other side of the door was generating a small amount of heat that had been there long enough to soak through the steel. I told Rowan the next morning. I showed him the sensor log. I showed him the camera record. I told him about the padlock. He listened to all of it without interrupting, and when I was finished, he said something I wasn't ready for. Voss opened it. I waited. 3 weeks before he disappeared, he cut the lock and went inside. He told the morning manager what he found. The morning manager quit the same day. Voss put a new padlock on, the one that's on there now, and went back to work. 3 weeks later, he was gone. What did he find inside? I don't know. The morning manager wouldn't say. He just turned in his keys and left. I asked him once, years later, at a gas station. He pretended not to know me. And you never opened it yourself? Rowan looked at me the way Gilchrist looked at the elevator operator in a story I'll never tell you about. I have a daughter, he said. I'm not going to satisfy my curiosity at the cost of finding out what made 2 men abandon their careers overnight. I opened it on a Saturday. 2:40 a.m. I brought bolt cutters from home. I cut the corroded padlock, unwound it from the hasp, and lifted the roll-up door 6 inches before the smell hit me. Not decay. Not chemicals. Old paper. The deep, sweet, musty smell of paper that has been sitting in a closed space for a very long time, undisturbed. Like a library basement. Like a room full of filing cabinets in a building where the climate control failed 20 years ago. I lifted the door the rest of the way. The unit was 10 feet by 10 feet. Concrete floor, corrugated steel walls, no window, no ventilation, no light fixture. Standard unit. In the center of the floor was a single filing cabinet. 2 drawers. Tan metal, the kind you see in government offices. No dust on it. I want to emphasize that there was dust on the floor, dust on the walls, dust on the inside of the roll-up door. There was no dust on the filing cabinet. The air inside the unit was cooler than the corridor. Not refrigerated, just cooler, the way a basement stays cool in summer. but the unit was on a concrete slab at ground level. There was no reason for the temperature difference. The top drawer was unlocked. Inside were personnel files. Manila folders, tabbed with names, organized alphabetically. I recognized the format. It was the same template Lakeview used for employee records. Same header. Same fields. Hire date, position, shift assignment, emergency contact, departure date. Every overnight manager Lakeview Self-Storage had ever employed was in that drawer. I counted. 14 files. The earliest was dated 1994, the year the facility opened. I read through them in order. Each one had a hire date and a departure date, and next to the departure date, in handwriting I didn't recognize, was a single word. The word was different for each file. For the first manager, retired. For the second, transferred. For the fourth, declined. For Curtis Voss, the sixth file, opened. For the 3 managers after Voss, declined, declined, declined. For Rowan, file number 10, the annotation read, stable. I found my file at the back of the top drawer. It had my full name, my hire date, correct, my shift, correct, my emergency contact, my brother, in Riverside, a number I'd given to HR on my first day and to no one else at the company, and a departure date. 2 weeks from the night I was standing there. Next to the date, in the same handwriting as every other file, was a word I had not seen on any previous entry. Opened. I put the files back. I closed the drawer. I pulled the door down and bought a new master padlock from the hardware store the next morning and locked Unit 17 with a lock that wasn't corroded, that worked, that I had the only key to. I didn't tell Rowan. I didn't tell anyone. I thought about quitting. I thought about it every night for the next 13 days, and every night I came back instead, because I needed to understand one more thing. I needed to know if the departure date was a prediction or an instruction. If I stayed past it, would the file be wrong? Could a file be wrong? On the 14th night, the date written in my file, I did my rounds at 10, at midnight, at 2. Nothing happened. No sensor. No camera failure. No warm padlock. The facility was quiet. At 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes before the end of my shift, I checked the billing system one last time. The wire transfer for October had arrived. Same routing number. Same sender, none. Same schedule, first of the month, on time, automatic. But the amount had changed. For 21 years, the transfer had covered one unit. Unit 17. The rate had adjusted with every price increase, perfectly, without anyone updating the payment information. The October transfer was higher. It was exactly double the cost of 2 units. I work at the Amazon warehouse again. I gave 2 weeks' notice the morning after I saw the transfer. Rowan didn't ask why. He just nodded, the way he nodded at the end of every conversation about Unit 17, as if he'd been counting down to it. I drove past Lakeview once, 3 months later. There was a car in the overnight lot that I didn't recognize. Someone new at the desk, watching the monitors, doing the rounds. I thought about stopping. I thought about knocking on the office window and telling whoever was in there not to audit 17. But I kept driving. Because Rowan had it right. Some accounts are better left alone. And because I'd checked one last thing before I left, the unit directory on the billing screen, and there was a new entry at the bottom of the roster that hadn't been there when I started. Unit 63. Lakeview Self-Storage has 62 units. Unit 63 was listed as occupied. Prepaid. Wire transfer. No sender name. No gate code. No access log. The tenant's name on the account was mine. If this one got under your skin, subscribe. There's a new story every week. And if you ever rent a storage unit, ask the manager how many units the facility has. Count the doors yourself. And if the numbers don't match, If there's a door at the end of a road that isn't on the directory, with a padlock that's too warm and a payment history that shouldn't exist, don't open it. Don't audit it. Don't ask whose name is on the file inside. Because the file already knows yours.